Hi everyone, welcome to episode 3 of our Dream Big, Act Small podcast. This podcast is for those of you who refuse to accept the status quo, are willing to do whatever it takes to achieve your dreams, and are striving to become local and global influencers. My name is Joey Jenkins, your host with Intentional 360. We help organizations be intentional about their vision, their strategies, and their actions to achieve peak performance. And I am thrilled to have Kris Asleson with us today as our guest. Kris is a social entrepreneur, nonprofit director, husband, business leader in our communities, and we're thrilled to have you today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Kris, you started a nonprofit organization in your early 20s. Can you tell us a little bit about what TruthX Vision does, why you started it, and just a little bit more about your background with that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think the full story might be a whole episode in and of itself.
Yeah.
But the Cliff Notes, essentially, I got into internet marketing essentially when I was a teenager, and started with selling on eBay. Was an eBay power seller when I was 13. Ended up hand coding back in the good old days of HTML, and made this website where I was essentially selling knockoff products from all over the world. And this was the Wild West days of the internet, so I didn't really know that, I guess that was a thing you weren't supposed to do. There was some fake literature going around saying that as long as you indicated on your website that these products were replicas, that you could do that. So this was when I was 15, 16 actually. So the genesis of TruthX Vision goes back a little earlier than that even.
Wow.
So what happened was I got hit out of the blue with this lawsuit that kind of turned my world upside down, and I was pretty devastated, as you can imagine. Spent a lot of time building this thing. It was starting to get to a point of profitability, and just had it taken away. And so I started reflecting back on, okay, well, what next? Kind of hit this inflection point that most people don't really reach, I think, in their teen years at that age, where I'm kind of figuring out what's the next business to start, right? Entrepreneurial mind, always moving.
That's right.
So anyway, started thinking about that, and just nothing was inspiring. The idea of how to become a millionaire by the time I'm 30 or something like that was just it's just such a flat thought. It did nothing for me. And so my spirit started getting stirred to explore the nonprofit space, since essentially the principles were the same. You were just promoting a vision for a better world rather than a product. So that got me started down that track, and it was around that time I started becoming aware of the world around me, and the senseless struggle that so many face. I'm sure you're probably no better than me with your time working in Haiti, but it's really hard to know what to do with the information once you become aware of the statistics of someone starving to death every 4 seconds, or billions of people still lacking basic access to clean water.
Yeah, how did you handle that at such a young age? I mean, took that and then stirred you to take action and start?
Right. Well, I mean, I didn't handle it very well. I just thought the right response was to be angry at the world, and didn't know why people didn't care when I would present this to them. And one lesson I've learned along the way is, even if it's a problem, you always have to be fun and exciting if you want to motivate others and lead them. I found that people were, I guess they agreed with me, but they weren't inspired because I was just so negative and bummed about this problem. But I did take some action, and got a few buddies kind of rounded up to take a stab at this thing. And we wanted to focus on building a sustainable organization that was built around programs that really offered a hand up rather than a handout, and embrace that philosophy. But then also do something kind of for our peers, something that was very youth focused, where young people could be attracted to that organization and that culture and want to be a part of it because it was cool and interesting. And just didn't see a lot of that going on in the nonprofit space.
So you've engaged a lot of young people over the years in your cause.
Right.
How have you found that? How have you done that most successfully, essentially?
It's really by, I think, well, on the front end, we try to take our marketing and communications more seriously than perhaps we should for the size of organization we are. So it's something that's just it's clean from a marketing perspective. It's fun to be a part of. We try to communicate well, but then also just providing projects that young people who are very much into sustainability and transparency and those kinds of values we try to bake that into not just our organization, but in also the projects that we vet to start. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And so can you tell a little bit about where you work and what the work on the ground looks like?
Sure. So we work in Ghana right now in West Africa. We're still a fairly small organization, but we do have a few pilot projects going. We have a program called Farm in a Barrel, which is basically what it sounds like. Everything you need to set up a 6 foot by 6 foot chicken coop, packed in a 55-gallon drum barrel. So it's kind of the sustainable backyard farming system.
Awesome.
And then we have a village drill program, which is kind of the same thing, but applied to water rather than food. You could think of it like that, where a local drill team essentially is contracted to go around and drill wells for their country, men and women. And that's cool because we can do that by raising donor funds within our organization to drill a well, or we can also target market solutions just, from perhaps government funds that are available or other organizations that, are in need of drilling wells for their donor base. They can subcontract our team to go do that work. So.
Wow. So you've been doing this for how many years now?
I would say seriously, about 4, but the genesis going all the way back to the high school years, I'd be 10 or 11 now. So, yeah, it's been a grind, but a good one.
Has it been harder than you thought it would be?
It's interesting because it seems like it gets harder and easier at the same time, because I always think if I had to go back in time a year, I would want to quit because I have no idea how I had the energy and the just focus to power through some of those challenges. So there's definitely something to be said for never underestimate the energy it takes to start something, no matter what it is. It takes a lot. But then also, as you grow the organization, there's new challenges and there's bigger challenges. So some stuff gets easier, but I feel like some gets harder.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about the resiliency you've shown through being willing to not just have the vision, not just start, but to continue to sustain through all those challenges that you've experienced in international work, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what's the most impactful thing that has happened to you, or most impactful experience in your work with TruthX Vision?
Sure. Well, I was one of the rare ones, I think, in this space that was drawn to the problem, not because I saw, some invisible children video in college or because my parents were missionaries or something like that. It was purely a statistical, numbers person. It went to my brain, and there's not a lot of, I guess, emotive reasons for doing this, or at least I didn't think so, but definitely some unexpected experiences being over in Ghana a few times. I've been 3 times now. One in particular, I was sitting in the back of a taxi cab one time with one of our beneficiaries who had just received a Farm in a Barrel system to start his business. And we were just making small talk and not going anywhere special or doing anything. He just mentions out of the blue, he said, "I'm very thankful for this Farm in a Barrel system because I didn't have a purpose in my life before, and now I have a purpose." And it just caused me to pause, because you don't really think about, you're kind of looking at, okay, we got to launch this program, we got to, these are metrics, leadership, you're kind of outside looking at things from a big picture, and this just paused me. This is a human being that, like, his life has been turned around.
Changed and better because of your organization and you guys' work and initiative.
Yeah, and just to see that, the donors that drive the work for, I see us as, I think I'm ripping off, what's the guy's name? Can't believe I'm spacing. Marketing guru. Anyway, it's not important, but he says nonprofits are essentially hired by donors to carry out a. You know who said that? You know him?
I don't know. It's a
bugging
good concept, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I feel like we just work for our donors. So to be able to deliver something like that on behalf of our donors, it was just a deep experience on many levels.
Yeah, I'm sure they were excited to hear that and see the work that you guys are doing to advance, using their funds in a wise way. I'm sure it's been wonderful for them to be a part of.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit, talk to the audience about what are they supposed to do with this overwhelming need? I mean, you started a nonprofit. Is that what everyone should be doing, or how should they get involved and engage and use their talents and abilities? As they start to hear all these challenges around them, what should their response be?
Well, I think, the first, even though it's kind of a cliche, you have to do something. So I think, wherever you feel specifically led to engage, that's the first step, is not just wanting to do something, but then actually putting in a plan, some action steps to get engaged. Like something, that's why I like the Kickstarter program that you guys are doing, because it kind of offers that tangible outlet for, I don't know exactly how young you guys are rolling.
We're down to 5 to 18.
Well, there you go. So
we actually have, I think it's a 6 and an 8-year-old who are funding a farm in a barrel right now in the project
right.
that are raising money for through you guys.
Well, that's beautiful. I feel like that's the first step, is to actually engage. I think it's important to find a community that you like and you feel something you can really be a part of for the long run, because sometimes it can get a bit taxing. It's always fun to volunteer the first month, but if you want to commit to an organization for the long run, it's really important that you're having fun with what you do. So I would say that start with where you feel that deep calling, because you're going to need that burning passion to kind of carry you through the tough times. And those tough times are also a lot easier to navigate when you're with community. So
yeah, well, I love it. I love the work you do. A huge fan, because as we said in the beginning, the podcast isn't just for those who are striving to become local and global influencers, so not just the ones who are refusing to accept the status quo and doing whatever it takes to achieve their dreams, but the people who really want to give back, and they want to achieve success and influence so that they can give back to their local and global communities. And you're, I think, a fantastic example of that. So not only do you wear the nonprofit hat, but you also are a business leader, social entrepreneur. You have another company as well, a for-profit company. Can you tell us a little bit about that, when you started and what you do?
Yeah. So back in 2012, I was at a transition point in life, and the nonprofit was getting to be quite a responsibility, to the point where I was going through job interviews and not having much luck, and not even wondering how I could hold down a 9-to-5, because even though there was no real money to pay me, or pay anybody for that matter, it was a full-time responsibility. So spend some time thinking how that could work out. Was I going to have to just kind of abandon ship, or what was the way to proceed? And it just kind of made sense that if I started another business, wasn't really something I was jumping up and down to do, because I had been experiencing the startup, the energy and all that it takes. But I had some experience in digital marketing, obviously, with my background. Hopefully no lawsuits this time, but wanted to, I guess, leverage some of that expertise. And I liked how it could fit together, because a lot of that kind of work can be done outside of business hours, or it can be done anywhere. So like one time in 2013, I went to Ghana for 10 weeks and kept business running fine, because as long as I could get to an internet cafe or have some Wi-Fi every couple days, I could kind of keep things going strong and moving along. So it just seemed like it was kind of a complementary business. And the goal, of course, is to get it to a point of, I guess, significant profitability. I don't quite exactly know what that means, but something where the business can serve the ministry and kind of be a financial engine for it. So that's kind of why I've been working on this balancing act between those two.
Yeah. Can you speak to the differences between being in the for-profit space and the nonprofit space? Are there any? And from a leadership perspective and the work that you've done, or are they fairly similar, or are they fairly different?
Definitely some similarities, definitely some differences. I'd say the biggest difference in, to make a relationship analogy, I feel like working in the digital marketing business, clients, at least you go into this relationship and it's kind of like a one-night stand type of approach, right? It's can you build me a good website? Do I trust you? Can we get on with this? Can we make it happen? And then hopefully they believe us that we're the right ones for the job, and then you just kind of go into it with a kind of a transaction first mindset. In the nonprofit space, I feel like it's more like a marriage. Donors are coming in, there's a lot of relational investment going in. It's not just about, in some cases maybe, but a lot of times it's, they get to know the organization. They're not just going to write some check based on a mission statement, or because the nonprofit can solve some specific need that they have. So that kind of plays out in some interesting ways in the for-profit side of things, since we're both kind of just going after this agreed partnership. Sometimes it can be easier if someone is interested in a website, for example, and they go to our portfolio and they see they like the websites that we do. It's pretty straightforward. Nonprofit, sometimes you're not going to go to. Sometimes you have to go 5, 6, 7 meetings with somebody before you feel like that you should extend an invitation to them to your fundraising event, or to even bring up the conversation. So it's
to really drive those relationships deep.
Yeah.
And create that effectiveness.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to manage.
Yeah, no, that's good. How do you wear so many different hats? I mean, we're in a fast-paced world. Everyone struggles with not having enough time. When you ask people how they're doing, they're always busy, right? And then for you especially, I think you can speak to that a little bit as somebody who is in so many different spaces. You're trying to be a great husband while also trying to be a great leader in your business and create a sustainable business, which means you have all aspects, and the same in your nonprofit. How do you do that effectively?
Sure. I'm going to go a little contrarian here and say I actually think it's pretty easy. And it's easy if you have clarity. It's the number one thing that, obviously you have a company with intentional in the name, so you know that when you're intentional, it sort of automates that. Well, maybe automates isn't the right word, but it automates your schedule to essentially eliminate a lot of the stress of wondering, what could I be doing? What might I be doing right now? And I feel that if you have clarity about your vision, and then you structure your life in a way that goes after that vision, then you just make peace with what you can't do. And I think if you are intentional about your priorities and setting that up, then your head hits the pillow pretty easy at night, because you did what you're trying to do. And there's always more you could do, but you sort of recognize that you maxed out your day and there's no more that you could have done. And sure, I'm always looking for productivity hacks and trying to take new supplements to give me more energy, to get more out of my time and all that stuff, but it's not something I really worry about. How am I going to balance everything? And I think the key for me is to think of it as living an integrated life rather than a balanced life, because balance kind of puts everything against each other, where integration takes your number one goal, whatever it is in your life that you want to be doing, and kind of creates a structure around it. So now making it to the gym isn't like, oh, something else I got to check off to be healthy. It's, well, I understand that my number one goal is to start a business right now, and I need about 30 minutes of exercise to clear my head at the end of the day to keep pursuing that. So then, it fits in. It. Same thing, but kind of a different way to...
Yeah, that's fantastic. I've never heard that perspective, or at least that verbalization idea of how to live balanced versus integrated. That's great.
Yeah,
Thanks
helpful.
for sharing that. Can you talk to the audience a little bit about how do you pursue professional and personal development? I know you're someone who is relentlessly growing and trying to strive to be better. Do you have any resources, direction, places, or even just speaking to the importance of that for them?
Well, I think obviously what we're doing right now is huge. The podcast space has opened up all kinds of opportunities, really leveled the playing field for this kind of opportunity that someone might want, even if they don't have any money, as long as they're prepared to kind of buy in and put the time in. I think multitasking is kind of a big myth, but there are ways that you can do it effectively when you're using different senses. Like at the gym, there's no reason why you can't be learning at the same time, or when you're driving, or all kinds of things. If you think of any time you don't need your all 5 senses to physically engage in whatever you're doing. I think there's the opportunity for the creative person to get 2 things done at once and kind of train 2 different skills. So
capitalize on net time.
Yeah, and there's so many. Yeah, exactly. And there's so many podcasts out there. You spend a day just really sifting through reviews and looking. It starts with going back to the clarity. What do you want to focus on? And I think there's. I still read. I try to keep up, but I've just found so much value in podcasts.
Yeah, I think that seems to be where people are trending towards from a time utilization standpoint. Do you have any kind of modern day heroes, leaders, current day, who you aspire to or look up to, or think that you've learned a lot of good principles from that you bring down to TruthX Vision to Midas?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of a Franciscan priest, Richard Rohr. This guy is just a straight up G. I mean, you wouldn't expect it from him. He's just this old white guy, giving these sermons. But I mean, he's got so much relevancy to culture, and he speaks with a language that is so inclusive. And I think that's so important in whatever you're doing, whether you're religious or not. We need to bring people together, not push them apart. And this guy just has such a grace about him where you read I follow his daily emails that he sends out, and he can get you to fall in love with religion and be frustrated with it at the same time. And or there's one where he was a series where he did on relating quantum physics to prayer, and how intentionality of some of these things happening at a subatomic level, how it's not set in stone, and there's different laws that apply that are based on observation, and how could that be intertwined to prayer, and are those the building blocks of God, and just like crazy deep stuff like that too. So this guy has just been very helpful to give me I think a well to drink from that's deep and rich, without it sort of feeling like I not really relating to a culture, or still feel like I have love for everybody.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that with our audience. For them to check out somebody specific is great. One question for our younger audience is, if you could go back to when you were 20, what would you do differently if you could relive it?
That's a tough question. I was thinking about that a little bit earlier today. I would try to find more people that weren't afraid to hurt my feelings. I think the nature of the entrepreneurial spirit combined with youth brings kind of an innocent arrogance. Like, you're just so excited for your idea and all these things, and it might not be a good idea at all. And because in your formative years, I just feel like you haven't had enough world experience to sort of vet that for yourself. Like, is this something I think is cool, or is this something that everyone thinks is cool? So sort of surrounding yourself with friends or mentors or whatever it may be that you just establish in that relationship. Like, look, I like you, but don't be afraid to hurt my feelings. And if you think I'm doing something that's just not, I shouldn't be putting my time into, then tell me. And that would be way better than just kind of the pat on the back, go get them.
I would second that. I would fully agree that I think that's an area that I wish I would have had the same people around me who were willing to help me get through my arrogance and maybe thinking things were going to be easier than they were, or ideas were better than they were. I think the tough balance for them is doing it in a way that doesn't crush you to the point of not pursuing anything. Right. So, but that's fantastic advice. I know you're incredibly busy. I know you have a lot of things to do to live an integrated life. I love the new perspective on that. So we appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing all the wonderful insights. If people are interested, they can check out TruthX Vision and Midas, your business, to see more what you're doing, hear more about it, and see if you can partner in any way. Right. But thank you for your time. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to our podcast. I want to thank Jonathan Reed and Silversmith Media for being our videographer and filming today. And thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it. Take care. Keep dreaming big dreams, and keep doing the little things to make them happen.